This is the story of a bunch of astronauts exploring Mars when a mother of all storms hits the planet that threatens to destroy their return rocket. So it is time to pack things up and go home back to Earth. But of course they had to do that at the very last minute. As they are making their way to their rocket in the middle of the brewing storm, one astronaut, Mark, is hit by a broken satellite dish and disappears into the storm. Everyone thinks he's dead, so they hop in their rocket and blast home. Meanwhile, on Earth, NASA holds a press conference to let the world know that one astronaut died. They even had a funeral for him. But it turns out he's alive, wounded and in pain, but that doesn't stop him from getting back to base and fish for parts and stapling his wound shut. With nothing better to do, he updates his video blog and figures out how he's going to survive. What will he eat? Potatoes, of course. He uses handy poop for fertilizer and comes up with a chemical reaction with fuel to make water that goes kaboom. He gets it right the second try though, and potatoes are born. Back on Earth, NASA notices that things have been moving around the Mars camp and realizes Mark is alive. However, they decide not to tell the returning crew so they don't lose their focus on returning home safe. The logic was that there was nothing they could do to help anyway. For Mark, his plan is to go to Ares 4, a supply site, and wait for the next mission to Mars to arrive in a few years. To reach the site, he extends the range of the rover by not using the heater that drains the batteries. So that he doesn't freeze to death, because Mars is super cold, he uses plutonium for heat instead. All along, Mark makes fun of disco music, the only music left behind by the crew. His other project is to communicate with Earth, and he digs out the 1997 Mars Pathfinder and devises an alphabet using the camera of the Pathfinder. Eventually, NASA engineers figure out how to text message Mark back and forth. With communication established, now it's time to plan the way home. Finally, NASA decides to tell the returning Mars crew that Mark is alive, and as expected, the captain blames herself for leaving him behind. But things never go the way you plan. On Mars, Mark loses the potato farm because of pressure malfunction, and on Earth, NASA decides to skip inspections of the resupply probe to speed up the delivery of supplies to Mark, and guess what? It goes kaboom! Not to worry though, China comes to the rescue and they agree to let NASA use their rocket to try a second time. Meanwhile, in the basements of NASA, one analyst thinks a better option is for the resupply rocket to meet with Hermes, the returning spacecraft, and slingshot around the moon to get back to Mars faster and on time to save Mark, who is running low on supplies. NASA says it's too risky and doesn't want to risk the lives of the returning astronauts for the return of one astronaut. The crew doesn't care what NASA thinks and goes with the slingshot plan anyway. As the Hermes comes to rescue Mark, he has to strip the Ares 4 rocket out of everything so it has enough power to break the atmosphere and meet up with Hermes in orbit. To do so, he gets rid of computer consoles, chairs, and flies up with a tarp covering the nose of the rocket. He finally gets to space, and when you think he's about to be saved, Hermes miscalculated the intercept velocity. To compensate, it blows up the bow to decelerate to match Mark's velocity, but there's another problem. The tether to reach him is too short. With quick thinking, Mark punctures his suit to propel himself towards the captain, the plan works and everyone is safe. After all his adventures, Mark teaches and the space program lives on.